Hey, welcome. This is the Mac.
Hold on a second, Jack.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Welcome. This is the Mac, Jack, and Jim Sunday football show. But Jim Jeffcoat's not here today, Mac. He's flying from Dallas to New Jersey to be there for the game. So
Right.
it's you and I like old times. We haven't done a show together for a while, just the two of us, but it's football Sunday. All the hopes and dreams, Mac, are still on the table for a lot of teams. Guys such as you who, selected the craziest Super Bowl selections, like in your case, picking the Giants to win the Super Bowl when people laughed at you, Mac. All of a sudden, you're not looking so bad. No one believes you, Mac. No one believes you, but no one could laugh at you right now because the Giants are 2-0 because they don't have the evidence to convict you, Mac, right now on the Giants. They don't have the evidence, Mac, to say that you have no idea what you're talking about because you could point to the Giants' record. They're 2-0. There's still hope. They can't be more perfect than 2-0. But for other teams, Mac, the panic meter's out. They're 0-2. If they go 0-3 today, the season is, I don't want to say all but done, but is in tremendous jeopardy. They desperately need a win. So it's a big day in the NFL. Some teams can afford a loss. Some teams absolutely can't afford to. They're in a must-win situation. And before I forget, Mac, good morning.
Good morning, Jack. And good morning to everyone out there. Welcome to the Big Football Show. Jack, Mac, Jack, and Jim. And as Jack said, Jim is flying in an airplane to New Jersey to be there for the game. So, he won't be here this week, but he'll be here next week. Glad to have you all aboard for the Big Football Show. We always want your comments. We always talk to your show. Remember, it's your sports personal network. It's your network. So come on board and give us your comments.
Forget the niceties, Mac. This is football. I don't hear it's their network, whatever. What the heck? It's football Sunday. They can't get enough of it.
Right.
Okay. And there are a lot of storylines going out there now. A lot of storylines this early in the season. Okay. And there's a lot of frustration going on. Even with the great Tom Brady, the Buccaneers are 2-0. He broke 2 tablets, Mac.
Yeah.
He slammed the tablets down on the sideline, and they're 2-0.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of, tension going around with certain teams in the NFL. Hey, that's good morning, Keith from TJIF. Did I get it right?
TJ Sports Talk is close enough.
TJ Sports Talk. I get the tongue twisters all the time. But, Keith, what I'm telling Mac, very tense week 3 in the NFL. Okay, but before we get to that, you're our college football guru. There were a number of games played yesterday. Did anything stand out in yesterday's games?
Clemson's certainly beatable. Georgia didn't exactly set the world on fire against Kent State. My Miami Hurricanes are absolutely atrocious. Getting beat by Middle Tennessee, not just getting beat, but getting just annihilated. Van Dyke, their Heisman promoted quarterback and number 1 draft pick potential, got benched, and that's not looking good. So that's ugly. USC, I think, got exposed a little bit against Oregon State yesterday. It was a very interesting day in college football. And look at Oklahoma loses too, by the way, to their kryptonite, Kansas State, who lost last week, looking ahead probably to Oklahoma. It was another fun day in college football. I mean, every Saturday is just a wild roller coaster ride. By the way, Texas A&M, they do win a big game against who the heck did they play? Oh, Arkansas. And if you're better like me, you wonder, why are you going for 2-point conversion down 14-13? And I end up losing that game because it's a 2.5-point spread. They would have won by 3.
Excuse me, Jack. Keith, any big upsets that you saw?
Definitely Miami against Middle Tennessee for sure. Kansas State beating Oklahoma, I guess you would have to call a big upset, but I don't, because Kansas State has really given Oklahoma a hard time the last 3 years. Other than that, I mean, nothing really stands out as a mover and a shaker. I mean, the first couple of weeks, we've had some volatile movement up and down the polls. I don't think you're going to see that type of movement this week. Just looking quick again at the scoreboard really quick, but I don't see anything else that really stands out. Michigan State losing to Minnesota, not just losing, but losing big. I don't call that an upset, though. Minnesota was favored in this game at Michigan State. But still, Minnesota looks really, really good. Kansas, 4-0, beats Duke, who was also undefeated. That's an interesting matchup of undefeated teams in this late, at this point in the season.
Kansas State over Oklahoma, that had to be a surprise.
Yeah, I said that a minute ago, but
but I'm saying, you just mentioned the other Kansas.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma was rated number 6 in the country.
Yeah.
So how did they lose a game like that to a Kansas State?
Definitely an upset yesterday. But as I mentioned a minute ago, Kansas State has really had Oklahoma's number the last couple of years and played very well and beat them a couple of times as well. So not a huge upset in my mind. I think the Big 12 is just wide open. I mean, Kansas hasn't played a league game, and Alan Peralez, who I know follows your show and mine, he's been touting Kansas for weeks, and I've been knocking him down, but I can't do it anymore. I got to see them play in the conference, but still, they beat a good Houston team last week. So,
yeah, getting back with Georgia, I'm a little surprised they're rated number 1 in the country ahead of Alabama still. I guess it's based, they're the defending national champion, so you got to take it away from the champion. Now, a 17-point victory like they beat Kent State yesterday, 39-22, that's normally considered decisive, but you would think a consensus number 1 team in college football like Georgia would roll over Kent State. Yeah, I mean, they would beat them by 4 or 5 touchdowns. 17 points kind of is a little soft to me. Is it one of those games, kind of like a trap game, where a team like Georgia knows they don't really have to get up for the game? Even though you never count the game as a win, in their head, they had that game won beforehand. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance where we're going to lose this game, but that they were probably a 35 or 40-point favorite in this game. So as far as being able to cover a spread like that, definitely a trap game, because now they're getting ready for SEC play, right? Now their real season begins. They've been good up till now. They beat I don't know. I still don't know whether that Oregon win is a great win or not. I still don't know, because Oregon's all over the board. They barely pulled out a win yesterday at Washington State. That was a great game. They scored 29 points in the fourth quarter to win that game. So, again, Georgia and Alabama, they're 1-1A. Alan and some Oklahoma fans were messaging me about the fact that they're not out of it yet with 1 loss. Well, they are if Georgia or Alabama finishes with 1 loss, because they're both going to get in the playoff.
Well, from what you see so far, if neither Georgia or Alabama was going to win the national championship, and the vast majority of people feel it's going to come down to one of those two, who do you see upending those 2 teams, if there's anyone out there to this point?
Ohio State's the obvious third choice besides those guys. They annihilated Wisconsin yesterday, as expected. If you want somebody that's a bit of an outsider, I'm always a fan of Oklahoma State, but you got to run the table in the Big 12 to be able to get in that playoff. So Ohio State would definitely be the odds-on favorite if it's not Alabama or Georgia.
Cincinnati's fun run of the last couple of years, I guess, has come to an end.
It is. They had a nice win yesterday, but they're definitely there is no Group of 5 team this year that's going to have a chance to get in the playoff. BYU, Houston were the trendy picks. They both have losses already, and obviously they can't get in without being undefeated.
Keith, switching to the NFL, what storyline do you see today that's most intriguing to you?
Well, Buffalo at Miami. Buffalo banged up a lot, obviously. This is going to be an interesting matchup in the AFC East for sure. We're going to find out whether this is where we find out whether Miami's really good or not. Obviously, they put themselves in a big hole last week, which is concerning. The fact that they came back certainly offsets that. But the way they played 3/4 of that game would worry me if I was a Miami fan. So I think that's a big matchup. I think the Patriots game is a big matchup. You got two teams that are trying to find an identity. Patriots getting better. Baltimore blowing that big lead last week. Will they have a hangover? I think that's an interesting game to keep an eye on. Who else is playing here today that I like a lot? Sorry, I lost my schedule here.
You're not talking about Houston at the Chicago Bears, that big
We'll not
game.
talk
are you?
about that game. Nobody cares about that. Raiders and the Titans. You know what? The thing with the NFL, there are a lot of teams that are good, but who's really good besides
Well, since you're a New England guy,
Yeah.
Josh McDaniel, he's always going to be a, New England guy. He's going to be a Patriot to a degree because of his years as an assistant coach and the success he's had there. This is his second stint as a head coach. He went to the Raiders. There's discontent starting after, a couple of games here already. The Raiders are 0-2. And I'm going to tell you something. We have a long history of coaches who were given second chances, who were successful, none more than Bill Belichick, obviously. But this is Josh McDaniel's second go-round. And if you want to get technical, you could maybe say third go-round, because he'd agreed to become the Indianapolis Colts coach, and then he bowed out on that. And then he had success as a coordinator. If he doesn't cut it as the Raider coach, he might be a career assistant, going forward.
Yeah, he may very well be the Patriots offensive coordinator again next year if he doesn't get things going. He's looking at an 0-3 start if they don't beat the Titans, who are not playing well either. It's a big game for them. So that's another big game of teams that aren't playing well, both 0-2. And Max Giants, it's a big game too. Monday, I think they play Monday night, right?
Against Dallas, yeah.
Even without Dak in the lineup, this is still a good test for the Giants just to see where they are. I like the Giants. I said it before the year. I don't like them to be a Super Bowl contender like Mac does, but I did pick them second in the NFC East. And I said Saquon Barkley would have a big bounce back year, that second year after this injury.
Well, you picked the Giants. I didn't realize you picked the Giants second. You picked them ahead of who? Philadelphia, Dallas. I know Washington. I had to pick them ahead of.
I picked Washington to finish first in that division, actually. So.
Oh, wow. Keith Engel's shaking things up. All the predictions we see anywhere in the NFL, that is the boldest one of the season put out by you, Keith.
So far, not good.
Won the Giants, too. And who did you have hurt? Philly, Dallas.
That was my pick, and I really I also predicted every one of those teams would either have 9 or 8 wins, all 4 of them, and they could finish in any order, right? But I like Washington and the Giants. I didn't get the Giants quite to the playoffs, but look, at 9-8 would be a great improvement and good momentum for the Giants. I think they got the right coach now. I think they got the right mentality. They're putting Daniel Jones in a position to succeed and not get him beat himself and the team beat. He hasn't set the world on fire, but he's been very efficient through 2 games.
Hey, Jack. Yeah, I thought you lost me for a minute there. Go ahead.
Oh, Mac's here. Hey, Mac.
No, Mac, just cut in. Mac, don't be polite. This show's not about being polite. Just cut in when you have a chance. I mean, Mac, you're just the opposite. In real life, you cut the line when you go places, I'm sure. When you drive, you cut in the lane ahead of cars waiting in the lane. Be the same in this show.
Sure.
How'd you get in here? I need to take a sip of coffee. He had like a machine gun.
Yeah, Mac, get in there, man. I mean, wait. I mean,
so listen, I agree. It's a huge game, Dallas and the Giants. I'm not sure now. I mean, I was wholeheartedly behind the Giants, and now it's really, really going to be close. I think Daniel Jones and especially Saquon Barkley have to have big games to beat the Cowboys. I'd like to see the Giants put them away. I really would. I mean, this is a statement game for them in the division. So if they put away the Cowboys, we're gonna do something this year.
Agreed.
I have a different mindset, guys. Who needs to win a game more? It doesn't mean our team is going to win it, okay? But between the Giants and Dallas, Dallas needs to win the game much, much more. If the Giants lose, they're 2-1. Their fan base is still happy at 2-1. Their fan base is not going to be unhappy if the Giants go 8-9 on the season. They're not. You know, they were so bad last year. They're going to figure, okay, we're progressing under new coach. Dallas, it seems that if they don't get to the Super Bowl, they're not going to be happy. Dallas can make the playoffs and lose in the first round, and you're going to have an unhappy fan base. I mean, so if the Cowboys at 1-2 and they lose to the Giants, a winnable game, there's going to start becoming a little bit panic in Dallas. So they really need this game a bit more, Dallas. Talk about the statement game. The game I think that Keith mentioned before, you know, Miami and Buffalo at Miami. If Buffalo should beat Miami and especially do it decisively, I think you could sign over the deed to the division to Buffalo this year. It's obvious that they're going to win the division, but if Miami should upend Buffalo, and Miami goes to 3-0 and Buffalo's at 2-1, and especially New England wins today at 2-1, all of a sudden the thought's going to be, wait, these guys aren't invincible. You know, maybe we could do something. It's a big statement game because if Miami wins today, they send a message, we're going to be here at the end of the season. We're not going away. And maybe in a sense, that might be a good thing for Buffalo, who's the consensus Super Bowl favorite this year, who's run over their first two opponents. Maybe it would be a bit of a wake-up call for them.
Oh, definitely. Look, it's a big game for both teams. I think Buffalo really wants to prove that this is no fluke. The first two games, they look by far the best team in football right now. But they've had their trouble in Miami through the years. So this was one motivation that they have. Miami's obviously coming off a nice win. The week one win against the Patriots was not a pretty win, but it's a win. Wins are wins, right? Bill Parcells always said you are what your record says you are, and they're 2-0. Right. The big thing for the Bills, though, they're missing 4 defensive starters today. So that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as that game progresses.
There are a lot of interesting storylines with the quarterbacks. I think are normally the number one storyline. And certain quarterbacks are on the hot seat after a couple of games. They're not given much of a leash. And one of them who ran into trouble, they're not playing today. They lost last Thursday. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mitch Trubisky. Mike Tomlin says he's sticking with him. Mitch Trubisky performed poorly his last couple of games, whether it was his fault, whether the rest of the offense had a big part in it. You know, you could debate. But he says he's not going to Kenny Pickett. Is that a firm commitment for Mitch Trubisky, or is it just a week-by-week commitment?
Yeah, Mike Tomlin's one of the better coaches in the NFL, and he knows what he's doing. And I would guess, even though I was a big Mitch Trubisky backer here, this says more about whether Kelly Pickett's ready to play than Mitch Trubisky's the number one quarterback. So, yeah, you know, if they don't play better, they're going to want to see what they got in Pickett. I'm assuming he's not ready to play, or I don't think that Tomlin would be scared to play him.
Yeah, listen, I'm not giving up on Trubisky either. I think he's he brought the Bears to the playoffs despite the 49ers. Problems. Yeah, despite the problems they were having.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bears.
Thinking of Jimmy G.
Yeah, despite the problems they were having in the front office with the GM and the head coach, who seemed to be at odds with each other, he was on the field. He performed very well, and this year, I think if you think about it, he's performing well this year too. I mean, he's for a couple games, he was running the way he should. He was passing when he should. He was making good decisions. So, I think. Listen, Mitch Trubisky, I think, could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league before the year is over.
Yeah, I think the lack of a running game for Pittsburgh, which is a bit surprising, has hurt Trubisky. If they could run the ball a little bit better, he's not a guy you can go
Najee Harris. They have Najee Harris there.
about 40 yards for the season. I mean, he has not played well here against the Patriots or against Cincinnati. So he has not had a running game. They've averaged about 2.5 yards a carry, I think, for 2 games, and this has not been that's not going to benefit Mitch Trubisky. He can't just go out there and carry that team, right? You get a game where they can have some play action and he can be successful in that, but he can't win with this type of football if he's going to be required to carry them.
And Keith, the Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the best offensive lines in the league too. So they've got to do a better job opening up them holes for the running back.
Agreed.
Keith, there are going to be a lot of quarterback openings next year in the NFL for the starting positions. We have a number of QBs who are a little long in the tooth. From what you could observe in college, who's coming out, is there anyone that's truly a major difference maker next year? And I'm not talking about a long-term project. I'm not talking about a Justin Fields type where you're going to have to develop over a period of 3-4 years. Is there anyone who could just come in immediately and do, let's say, what Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow did?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, people talk about this being it's better quarterback class than last year, but they talk about it being a really good quarterback class. I don't necessarily see somebody who can step in right away. There's some good players. C.J. Stroud is going to be a good player, but Ohio State quarterbacks never seem to make it in the NFL. You got maybe Young will come out from Alabama. I like Sam Hartman a lot at Wake, but again, I don't think any of these guys, Cameron Rising out in Utah, I like a lot, but I don't know that any of them are ready to step in and play at the NFL level in season 1, but maybe somebody will surprise us. So it's going to be very difficult if you need a guy to play right away.
You're a New England Patriot beat reporter. They're playing the we can say unofficially. You're a New England guy. They play the Ravens today. The Ravens are coming off a devastating loss to the Miami Dolphins, a game they had all but wrapped up. And I love these percentages. I didn't see it for the Raven-Dolphin game, but it's safe to say at one point the analytics would have said in the fourth quarter that the Ravens were 96% certain to win the game, or whatever number, but it would have been around there. And somehow the Dolphins staged a furious rally to win the game. Is that good for New England, that they're catching a team that's either going to be demoralized or is going to be very resolute because they blew that game? Now they absolutely have to beat New England.
Well, I think it helps the Patriots. I mean, anytime you have a game like that where you blow a big lead, it does carry over to the next week. And I'm also not crazy about the weapons that Lamar Jackson has around him. I mean, he is their offense. Dobbins is back this week, but he's still banged up. Their running game has not performed up to expectations, other than the tight end who broke out last year, Andrews. I don't see a lot of weapons for him to get the ball to. His 2 wide receivers are okay, but we talk about the Patriots not having a go-to guy. Where's the go-to guy on this Ravens team for Lamar Jackson? So they'll go as far as he can take them. Plus, this is not a really good Ravens defense either, historically speaking. They normally have pretty strong defenses. This is not a good defense, at least not right now.
And it's all well and good that that the Patriots are dependent, well, not dependent, but taking advantage of the other teams winning. They've also got to win, Keith. They've got to, it comes down to them too,
Without a doubt. I always, with the Patriots, I always thought that September was going to be really rough, right? And it wouldn't be pretty. If they could find a way to get out of September 2-2, they got Green Bay next week in Green Bay, which is going to be really rough for them. So this is a big game for them. If they get away 4-2, they got 4 very winnable games coming up after that. And then anything can happen. So this is an important game for the Patriots to come away with a win at home. And they have handled Baltimore historically pretty well during the regular season. They've split their 4 playoff matchups, but I think they're 16-3 maybe in the regular season. Again, Do those things really mean anything for today's game? Not necessarily, but they're numbers that everybody throws out there. And the Patriots are really good at home. So they're home dog today. I love home dogs.
You know, I like to have fun, like with the quarterbacks, and guess 2-3 years from now, is this team's quarterback still going to be the quarterback of the franchise? In certain teams, it's very easy to say yes. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, yes, and assuming the quarterback doesn't get injured. And can't play. Justin Herbert, obviously a big yes. But Mac Jones, he performed well last year. But can I say with confidence 2-3 years from now, he's going to be the New England Patriots starting quarterback? And I like Mac Jones, but I can't say that with absolute confidence. I could say maybe 60-40 he will be.
That's probably a good guess. I would have said higher than that at the end of last year, but you know, his struggles, I'm going to give him a pass right now because the kid's really smart. Everybody loves his work ethic and his demeanor and his brains. Right now, I'm going to give him a pass because they took a second-year quarterback who played pretty well in his rookie year and just blew up the whole offense. So he's got to get confidence in the scheme that they're trying to install here, and that's been his biggest problem here so far. You can see it a lot of times. There's indecision at that line of scrimmage, and he's yelling at guys to get in the right positions. And I don't think he's necessarily, 100% confident that he knows what that offense is supposed to be. It was better last week, but his decision making was a little bit off. And you're right. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a 95% chance he'll be that guy in 3 or 4 years, but I still think they think he's the guy today. That's what's important.
And I think we all can agree that Mac Jones isn't a playmaker, right? He's a game manager, and he depends on everybody else. Of course, any quarterback is player dependent, but Mac Jones is not a playmaker. So if the team isn't doing well, he's definitely not going to do well.
Yeah, he might be a little bit better than a game manager, Mac, but we don't know. One of the reasons he can't be a game breaker himself is he doesn't have the weapons to do it either. So, we don't know for sure. But he's never going to be a guy who can carry the team and throw 60 passes a game when they have nothing else going like Tom Brady was, right? So, yes, he will not reach that level, but he can be a very, very good quarterback in this league with the right system, with the right coaches, I still got faith. Things looked a little better on offense last week. They weren't great, but they were better. And that's all you can hope for right now is incremental movement forward.
Well, moving forward, who has more upside? Which team, New England or my New York Jets?
I think they're both fairly close together. I think the Jets have a lot of potential. Again, they get Zach Wilson healthy.
Well, I'm talking about by next year already. This year, you could say they might be neck and neck. Maybe New England might come out a little ahead of them. Who knows? But by next year, will the Jets be more of a factor in the AFC East than the New England Patriots?
If the Patriots don't improve their skill position players around Mac Jones, it's quite possible the Jets could pass them. I love what the Jets have done building this team. Now it's a matter of, I worry about the coaching staff a little bit, but I think, they can still get this.
Well, Robert Salah might take a receipt on that.
Yeah, I'll try to cash my receipt right away, by the way.
I mean,
I think Saul is a great coach. He's a great defensive coach, which makes him able to read the offenses, right? So I love Saul. I love what he's done there. I love the confidence, the culture. I mean, the Jets are going to be a team that they're going to have to contend with in the future.
Excellent. Good point. And I got to get out of here, guys. But great. This is a great half hour. So I hope you got Pat or Robert ready to come in because I got to get out of here.
All right,
stuff. Keith, Mac and myself will survive. We'll make it to the final bell. This is Football Sunday.
That with Jack going off at the top of the show, man. I was like, "What the heck's going on here, Mac?"
Yeah. I mean, it's they threw me into the deep waters without warning. You know what I mean? The waters are cold. Let me, ease in and heat up a little first.
All right, guys. You have a great Sunday. We'll see you later.
You too, Keith.
Take care, Keith.
Bye.
Excellent. Good stuff. Mac, I know it's football Sunday, but there's stuff even going on in baseball. I guess the Aaron Judge watch. And I'm watching a lot, I should say, more than a little bit. The TV was on the whole time, of the Aaron Judge home run chase. In a way, I'm glad he didn't hit it Friday night, because not many people would have seen that. That was on Apple. And then yesterday was on the Yes Network, but tonight the game's on ESPN. Robert Butler of Sports Scope is in here. Rob,
Yeah.
I didn't know you were coming on right now. I thought you were coming on in about a minute or two. So I was starting to talk about Aaron Judge. I know it's football Sunday, but he plays tonight. It's on ESPN. So it's going to kind of be interesting while the Denver game is going on with San Francisco tonight on Sunday Night Football. How many people are going to be tuned into the Red Sox Yankee game? I'm a little curious. The ratings just to see Aaron Judge. Normally they'd be watching the football.
Well,
so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. On my TV, you have the little last on the remote control option. So I'll be going from NBC to ESPN or whoever's carrying that game and each at bat. Back and forth. Now that you mentioned that, I want to see that. And a lot of people like myself, I think they're going to say that if he hits 62, with as strict as this league is, that's the number, guys.
Yeah.
I don't care what everybody else said. Now, unless something comes out about Judge, I don't think it will. That's the number.
Robert,
Go ahead, Mac.
you cover the big stories for us. And I want to get a little bit, we haven't talked about Brett Favre.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, rips off welfare, $77 million. This guy's a legend. I mean,
yeah.
Why would somebody like that do something like that?
Yeah. Jason Whitlock had a point about that. With these athletes, what we're really, especially in this modern media environment, the level of narcissism and entitlement is over the top, and I have one of these old school dictionaries here that's about this thick. If that's true, that should be thrown at Brett Favre. And I like Brett Favre, but man, that is low down. And if that is true, that he said, well, am I gonna be okay with this? Because in other words, I kind of know I'm wrong here. He should not do that. And quite frankly, as much as I like Favre, I know that he's had some problems getting home sometimes. There's been some there issues, potential CTE with him. We know about all his personal shortcomings, and his wife went through cancer and all that. That's part of the reason why I think the media hasn't really hammered Favre. That's another angle to that story. But man, hey, right is right, wrong is wrong, man. And I'm so tired of these athletes and celebrities getting the better end of things. For the normal person, we're looking at a lot of years in prison for something like that.
Yeah.
But guys, we don't know enough about what went on. We're hearing a story superficially. If what he did was morally wrong, but it was legal, okay, I don't want to start condemning him. If he saw loopholes in the law and we didn't like what he did, yet it was legal, I'm not going to condemn him. I'm not going to like what he did, but I'm not going to condemn him on it, because I think these stories get a life of their own sometimes. We don't know the real story that went on behind the scenes. And I think with any of us in life, at one point, someone says something about us to someone else, to some other people, and the other people are assuming it's correct. They start believing it. They don't know the whole story or what went on. And, I want to wait on the Brett Favre thing. Okay, if he's not going to jail or whatever, if it's a scenario where he can just pay the money back and that's the end of it, so be it. I don't want to make him out to be something like he's a criminal, he's this, he's that. I mean, wealthy people are looking for loopholes in the law all along. They're looking for tax loopholes, this, that. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know enough right now to condemn him on this.
Okay. What do you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Rob, the big game today. Big game today. The game of the day. The Raiders against the Titans, both 0-2.
Let's go say Buffalo, Miami.
It's in Tennessee, and you know the mood of what's going on in Tennessee. It's in Tennessee.
Yeah.
How ugly does it get in Tennessee if the Titans go to 0-3, especially against an 0-2 Raider team? And if the Titan offense is playing poorly, are there yells for Malik Willis to come in?
Well, I would rip the Band-Aid off this team, guys. November 1st is the trade deadline. That's a real thing now in football. Remember, it used to not be a big deal. It's not NBA, it's not Major League Baseball, but the truth of the matter is that oh God, what's the guy's name? Von Miller was traded from the Denver Broncos, guys, for a second and a third round pick. And, that put the Rams over the top and helped them win the Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm not a cheerleader guy. I'm not a Kool-Aid guy. I'm the rip the Band-Aid off. I'll tell you straight up like it is. I like to look ahead. And my prediction, this team will go 9-8. That's before they lost Bud Dupree, Harold Landry. They've got cornerbacks out. Taylor DeWan, their left tackle, Mac, he's out for the season. Micah Hyde just got hurt in Buffalo. He's a Pro Bowl level corner. The Titans got a guy named Kevin Byard. He's going to be a $19 million cap hit. This is a safety, guys. $19 million. I would call Buffalo and say, listen, if they go 0-3 today, Jack, and this trend starts, I would just start trading people, including Derrick Henry, and just get this because they're not going to win a Super Bowl with this group, guys. They're paying.
Rob, think of this division. Even if they go 0-3, it is so bad. I mean, 7-10 can win this division. Look who they have. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who aren't going to win many games. You could say, well, they're a young team on the way up, but let's be honest. They're going to probably have a losing record. They have the Houston Texans, who are 0-1. They're probably having a losing record.
Yeah.
They have the Indianapolis Colts, who are 0-1, who, the way it looks now, they're not going to be good at all. They're headed towards a losing record. In Tennessee, that is a horrendous division. That might be the worst division in the history of football since the Super Bowl era has begun. That's how bad it could possibly be. 6-10-1 can win that division. 6-10-1, or 6-11, I should say.
Oh, that is a wild exaggeration for one thing.
No, but look at who's going to do better. 6-11 might win that division.
Yeah,
and if you
go ahead, Mac. Yeah,
Jack, it's possible, but I mean, there's no way Tennessee is winning that division this year. There's no way. I mean,
who's going to beat them out?
Jacksonville could win. I think Jacksonville wins today. Chase Daniel may be playing for the Chargers. Justin Herbert's got cracked ribs. His last throw was a pick six, guys. 10 days ago.
Don't you have faith in Mike Vrabel, the Tennessee coach, who's one of the better coaches in the NFL, to kind of right the ship? That's what great coaches normally do. They find a way to right the ship and stabilize the team.
But Mike Vrabel does not.
Go ahead,
Mike Vrabel does not run. He does not catch. He does not block.
Yeah.
He doesn't play on the field at all.
Can I throw this at you guys? It's all about perception. Let's say the Giant game, the opening game, Bullock makes that field goal at the end of the game. Tennessee wins, and then they get blown out by the Bills, who are considered the Super Bowl favorites. People aren't panicking in Tennessee. They're a little disappointed how the team is struggling, but they're 1-1. And everyone says, take a deep breath. We're going to be fine. But because that field goal attempt was missed and they're 0-2, there's panic there in Tennessee, the way they're playing.
Because they're flooded with injuries, Jack, since that missed field goal. That's before they lost their left tackle for the season. Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, Christian Fulton's on and off hurt. That's their other leading cornerback. They traded their leading receiver last year. They're paying Ryan Tannehill $36 million. He's worth a third of that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's worth a third of that.
Mhm.
There cannot get any. Roger Saffold, their best run blocking guard, he's a Buffalo Bill now.
And the rookie, Jack, you talk about players that are ready to go in there. Normally, I don't agree. I normally think they should be on the sidelines with a clipboard for the first few years. But this guy can play. He's got a big arm. He can run, and he makes things happen. He is a game changer.
You're talking about Malik. You're talking about they should play Malik Willis.
Yeah, bring him in.
No, but if Malik Willis was an elite prospect, he wouldn't have gone in what did he go third round? Third round. Quarterbacks who are elite don't last to the third round. They go at some point in the first round. Worst case scenario, worst case, they go in a later part of the first round. And that would be if they really slipped through the cracks a bit, maybe like Kenny Pickett did perhaps. But he was still a first rounder. Speaking of quarterbacks, how big a game is this for Carson Wentz? Revenge game. Washington and Philadelphia. I think the game is in Washington today. So he's going to have that, comfort. Right. The Eagles go to Washington. It would have been more of a story if the Commanders were playing in Philadelphia. At least he has that comfort level of being at home, even though I'm sure Eagle fans led by Pags are going to flood, Washington Stadium, which is right nearby. It's a short drive. It's going to be a fun thing to see.
Well, Washington's playing better than I thought they would. Now the Eagles are coming off that big Monday night win. It's a little bit of a short week for the Eagles.
Washington is 1-1. How much better are they playing than we thought they would? Jacksonville, ho hum.
Robert, stand your ground. Stand your ground, Robert. I think they're playing well too.
They're running the ball well with Antonio Gibson. And I was reading that Washington or Philadelphia is about 28th against the run. I could see this Gibson guy having a pretty good game. They've got a decent pass rush there, and they've got weapons on the outside. This what's his name? Johan Dotson, this rookie from TCU that's playing with Washington. He's had a touchdown in every game, multiple 100-yard game. I mean, Philadelphia better have all their ducks in a row. This is going to be a pretty good game. It always is. And I wouldn't be surprised Washington didn't knock out humble Pags.
Yeah, and listen, they can't double the receiver you were mentioning. What's his name again?
Johan Dotson.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin. He's the number one back.
Yeah. I mean,
Logan Thomas is back, the tight end. So they got some weapons there, and they've got Chase Young is supposed to be back in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. That's the only one they're missing. That is a good game, actually. I'm looking forward to that now that you mention it.
Yeah.
We talk about all these young outstanding players, quarterbacks, coming up, whatever. But an intriguing game, 2 of the all-time greats are going head-to-head today, even though quarterbacks, to me, never really go head-to-head. Because if you're a quarterback, you're never playing against the other quarterback. You're playing against the other team's defense and the other team's coaching staff more than you are the quarterbacks. But it sounds good. So, I'm going to say, for the sake of how it sounds, wow, Packers at Tampa Bay, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And a buddy of mine has a few season tickets for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have an open seat whenever I want to go, but I won't be there. But that would have been a game I would have loved to have gone to, just so I could see those two legends, on the field at all times. What's your take? By the end of the season, are those two legends going to restore order, basically, and are they going to be there at the end of the season in the playoffs to see who goes to the Super Bowl?
What's really funny about that game, guys, is you got 2 first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks there. And the over and under in that game is like 41.5 because there's such injuries with Green Bay. Sammy Watkins out for the year. Christian Watson, their rookie, I think, is hurt. Mike Evans is suspended. Godwin's out. So it's you got 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You would think that was going to be the premier game. Everybody's talking about Miami and Buffalo and Denver, and nobody's really talking about the fact that you got Rodgers and Brady. This is like part 3, I think, since Brady, or part 4 since Brady has been with Tampa. I like Tampa in a sloppy game today to win that game. But that is an interesting matchup, though.
Well, guys, the biggest question mark is the Green Bay Packer wide receivers, right? I mean, they're young, they're inexperienced. Rodgers is really ticked off that they haven't been doing their assignments and studying and running their routes right. So, I mean, that's the biggest question I got is if the Packer wide receivers don't play well, does Aaron Rodgers have a bad game?
That is true. You know what? A big story in Green Bay is going to be that David Bakhtiari is coming back. The longtime left tackle has been injured. He got hurt towards the end of the season. That Tampa ended up going up there and beating them to get to the Super Bowl. And now, hopefully, for Green Bay's fans' sake, that their starting left tackle, who's held down the fort for quite some time, is going to be back. It could give Rodgers some time to maybe get the ball to Robert Tonyan, some no-name guys that I think maybe they'll use Alan Lazard, somebody like that, to keep them in the game. Green Bay has a chance because on the other side you've got injuries too. I think their right tackle's out or left tackle for Tampa.
Well, I'm going to tell you, there's another story in Green Bay that slipped under the radar. Sammy Watkins, their maybe most dependable wide receiver, at least experience that Aaron Rodgers is counting on. He pulled a hamstring. He's going to be out a month at least.
I thought it was for the season, but maybe.
Yes, Sammy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, hamstrings, you never know, Rob. I mean, They speculate a month. They could be slow to heal. It's very, very unpredictable. And that seems to be the prevalent injury in football. I mean, to a large degree, the biggest non-contact injury, put it that way, called hamstrings, because players try to take it up a notch to run extra quick. And that's how they get hurt. And those are slow to heal. And you have to let a hamstring heal completely before you go all out. Also, the Packer offensive line really hasn't protected Aaron Rodgers as well as they've done in the past this year. But something's improved with the Packers. They lost their playoff game last year to the 49ers because of the special teams. And they hired the Raider interim coach, Rick Bisaccia, who was let go.
Oh, nice.
He's done a good job with the Packers special teams this year. And you wonder why the Raiders didn't just keep him as their head coach, why they had to go to Josh McDaniel, because I think owners are intrigued by what assistants sometimes do. So they kind of reach out. The comeback, there were big comebacks last week, Rob, and that was a big story of the NFL. And one of the big comebacks was Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Bringing the Arizona Cardinals back to beat the Raiders when the Las Vegas Raiders had the game in hand. And for those who are doubting Kyler Murray, that was a good wake-up call. Kyler Murray showing what he could do. Was that an aberration last weekend? Is Kyler Murray back to what he was the early part of last year or what?
It feels like mismanagement. Oh, by the way, on the flip side, if Tennessee finds a way to beat the Raiders, and the Raiders are 0-3 after blowing a 20-point lead, guys, at home against a decimated Arizona team, that's a story to keep up with. I feel like that was more of the Raiders. They got real pass happy towards the end. They didn't want to run the ball. And Kyler Murray had way too much time out there, Mac. He was having 5 and 6 seconds to throw the ball and wiggle around and make plays, and he did. Some fan ended up slapping Kyler Murray, and I think he's gotten into some trouble, but he shouldn't have went up in the crowd like that. I would never done that. But
he went up into the Raider crowd.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking doing that.
You don't do it. The fan had no business smacking. It depends whether the fan hit him or gave him one of these get out of here taps.
It was like a get out of here, but it got on his face. I saw the video. Yeah.
Did he try? Could he have hurt? Did he move his arm hard enough where he could have hurt him? That's the question.
No, it was like a long reach. You go ahead.
To me, I'd let it go. I wouldn't do anything with the fan because Kyler Murray's the one that jumped into you basically in the stands. You said, get away, get out of my house. This is my home field. Don't jump over here. But I didn't see the replay. I'd have to see it.
You know, there were a lot of naysayers about Kyle Murray because of his size.
Yeah.
Coming out of college, not being able to see over people, but he can scramble to find those open lanes to make. And what an arm, guys, huh? Not just speed, but that man's got
Great deep ball.
Oh my God, he's got cannon for a little guy. So I think the Cardinals are going to do very well this year. They got a tough conference they're playing in, right? I mean, the 49ers, the LA Rams, all these teams vying to get back to get to the playoffs anyway. So Kyle Murray has a lot of things that he's got to do to make himself better. He's matured. He's a leader out there now, and I'm expecting big things from him this year.
Yeah, Jim said he thinks he's way too immature. He's a me guy. Jim Jeffcoat said
he was.
Yeah. Oh, can I say this observation? Now, Cliff Kingsbury, here's my biggest criticism of that team is they have to they try to run that football out of the shotgun with no momentum. What they did Sunday was a good observation, good move by Cliff Kingsbury by running the ball using a traditional option play. I don't know if you guys caught that. They were using some option, old school option, where you're getting the running back a little bit of momentum. I'd kind of like to see them use a little bit of I formation. Let your running backs help this guy out. Don't make him be your main runner and give him the running back the ball when he has no momentum. He's not moving at all. You just give him the ball out of the shotgun. I hate that play. Yeah. But they started doing some traditional option. Now, of course, you do too much of that, you're going to get your quarterback blasted too. But I understand. But it's better than what they have been doing.
I haven't seen a draw play in ages, a real old-fashioned draw play in the longest time. We're
Tennessee does it.
Which quarterback is under more pressure this week? And I'm not talking about contracts, so on. Baker Mayfield or Russell Wilson, they're both 0-2. Baker Mayfield has been very average. Russell Wilson has been very average. And I said before the start of week 1 that if Denver should somehow lose to Seattle, with all the hopes they have in Russell Wilson, their fan base is going to be deflated. And I think they're deflated already. And even though they won last week, they beat Houston. It was a very mild-mannered, low-scoring game. Their fan base is now still a little on edge, and Baker Mayfield brought all these hopes to Carolina, and he hasn't been bad. Had the 58-yard field goal that Cleveland made, had they missed that, would have been a triumphant win for Baker, but they didn't win it, and they're 0-2, and their fan base is maybe thinking, Baker's not so special. I mean, who's under more pressure? They're both 0-2 to really do well this week.
No, Denver won 16. It was a bad game. They played that emotional Monday night game. Then they come home. They did win like 16-9 or something like that. They did win. But check this out, guys. Kudos to the Denver fan base. They were booing Russell Wilson and that team. There was some kind of mismanagement call there towards the end of the half there, and they were booing. So they're not going to take this. I like the fact that they're not just going to pat you on the back for anything. I mean, you're paying a lot of money to get in these stadiums. We're paying a lot of this inflation prices and everything. So I like the fact that they're a little slow to develop. I think that Denver's going to be okay. In the short term, I think Denver's going to be fine. Baker Mayfield, he is what I thought he was about midseason last year. He's just a guy. He's not as fast as he thinks he is. He is not. He doesn't have the intermediate quality of a quarterback to throw those intermediate passes. He still hasn't developed. He throws a pretty decent deep ball. He's not like Kyler Murray, but he throws a pretty decent, and he looks more and more like a product of the Oklahoma coach there, Ridley. I forgot that guy's name. That really he's an overachiever. He was overdrafted. He's probably a backup bridge-like quarterback in this league, in my opinion.
My next question is, Baker Mayfield a Panthers starter next year or not?
Not unless they can do better. Go ahead, Mac.
Baker is lucky. I think he's lucky, guys. He's playing, a team. Let's take the Browns for instance, right?
Yeah.
Two of the best running backs in the league, a great defense. They swarm. It's lucky that for him that he has that team to fall back on. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Rob, you have any inside information? Which coach is on the hottest of hot seats? If I had to give a guess, I don't know what you think, Mac. If I had to give a guess, I don't know why I'm thinking Frank Reich with the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they're at home today. They're playing a powerful Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
Chiefs should win decisively. The feeling is the owner's not going to like hearing all the booing and all the discontent. And I think he's on the biggest hot seat because the Colts were thought of as being a playoff team this year. And had they beaten Jacksonville the last game of the season last year, they would have gone to the playoffs. So I think Frank Reich is really on the hot seat.
That's a good observation. I've had my mind set on Matt Rule with Carolina, having that. You just mentioned Baker Mayfield. They had Sam Darnold, and this guy don't have an ounce of patience. It doesn't feel like Brandon Staley is in that conversation, and you've got Sean Payton. There's been I read an article the other day, by the way. Sean Payton would be interested
in the conversation for what?
Brandon Staley. Oh, yeah. If they don't make the playoffs with that talent.
You're talking about the Chargers.
Yeah. Brandon Staley.
No, the Chargers will be fine. They're 1-1 right now. Yeah, he's under no pressure here. I mean,
he'll be the first guy fired back.
Season. They're going to have a good season. Come on. I mean, they're not going to collapse like these other teams. No, they're too good for that.
How about Pete Carroll, right? I mean, Pete Carroll.
Hot seat?
That's a given. Yes.
Oh, yes. I mean, he basically let Russell Wilson go. He tore apart the team. The Jamal Adams trade didn't work out like they thought it would. So Pete Carroll, I think, is probably going to be fired by the end of the year, guys.
Huh.
Almost a lock, yeah.
No, I don't look at it that way with Pete Carroll. For some reason, I think he's secure there. If they wanted to move on from him, wouldn't they have done it this season in the off season? Because there was the opportunity.
I don't know, Jack. I don't know. I think that Pete Carroll, like I said, with the decisions he made, losing his Hall of Fame quarterback with great receivers. I mean, how could you let Russell Wilson leave? That was crazy.
Well, Russell Wilson at this point in his career is not the Russell Wilson of old.
True,
I mean, Seattle made actually a good deal, the value they got back. What surprised me in that deal was the forgotten man, Drew Lock. I mean, it's one thing you lose out on the starting job, but when it's to Geno Smith, you got to be kidding me. That doesn't say much for Drew Lock's future as an NFL starter. It looks like he's going to be a career backup. At one point with Denver, he showed the potential like he might be, a future starter, but obviously that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I think a lot of that had to do with the team too, Jack, right? The Broncos were a very good team at the time and made him look good.
Well, he lost out to Teddy Bridgewater when Bridgewater was there. As far as Sean Payton being this great genius, I know he has a great coaching resume, at least a very good one, a Super Bowl to his credit with New Orleans. This is the same Sean Payton who said a couple of weeks ago that Tua is not going to be the Dolphin quarterback by the end of the year. He felt the Dolphins should go to Bridgewater as their starter. And I can understand that because Bridgewater did play for him at New Orleans when Drew Brees was out. Bridgewater went like 7-0 there. But I'm sure it was a lot more than Bridgewater why they were that good over there. But how can you do that? Tua is the future quarterback of Miami. If you have to have Bridgewater as your future starter, I mean, no. Bridgewater shouldn't be starting over Tua in no way, shape, or form.
Bridgewater's a really good guy. He's talking about becoming a coach. I think he was just throwing a bone for his friend there, Bridgewater, because he was a backup there for a number of years. And quite frankly, it was this time last year that Buffalo, remember Von Miller is with Denver or Buffalo. He got knocked out of the game this time last year, and Buffalo beat them 35-0. I wouldn't be surprised if an often injured Jack and Matt. And that was my prediction. They would look great with Tyreek Hill early and Jalen Waddle. But let's see 10, 12, 15 games into the season if Tua is not hurt again like he was last year, like he was his rookie year, and in college, guys.
Sure. I mean, injuries are a big part of it.
Yeah.
If you eliminate the injury concerns, how would you rate Tua?
Oh, Tua's right there, man. He may be in the top 10. But part of ability's availability. Sam Bradford was very impressive at times. But that guy could not – I mean, he would get hurt getting off the airplane. What's up, Jamie?
What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing today?
Max,
You're traveling to Washington, D.C. from Philly. How long a ride is it on that bus?
It's about 2.5 hours. I got everybody over here. We got them from everywhere. We've already done a couple of shots.
Just let the other riders know that Carson Wentz is psyched for today's game. This is known in Washington as a Carson Wentz revenge game.
Hey, everybody. The guy on my podcast says Carson Wentz is psyched for this game. He's about ready to take it to the Eagles. What do we got to say about that?
Wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. We got to let Robert get out of here. We gotta go to commercial, Jay. I know you love that. We'll go to commercial, and we'll be right back after this, folks. Robert. Let's do a commercial. Okay. Listen, we go to commercial. If you need to go to the bathroom, go ahead. We want to put a commercial right now. So let's push right through. Okay.
What's the feeling about this game? Are there a lot of emotions playing against Carson Wentz? Or is it just nothing more of a special feel because it's the first game back against Carson?
I think it's going to have. I think it has that type of feel, at least for the fans. The way that Carson left was a little maligned. When somebody doesn't want to be in Philly, we take that personal, and that's kind of how I think that's what the fans feel. I don't feel that the team feels that same way, but I think the fans definitely do, because we got 1,000 people. Yeah, we have 20 buses en masse. So the fans are ready for this. I'm not exactly sure that the team feels the exact same way.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the first time in a long time the Eagles actually have a handle in the NFC East. That the rest of the division is looking up to. If you look today, they joined Washington at 2-1. The Cowboys, if they win, they'll be 2-1. The I get the feeling there's a little bit of a swagger with the wall. They need to win today to keep that swagger going.
I agree. I think that, like I said, I think it's still a little too early to be able to sniff yourself. Like I said, I think if they did a couple of good games, the way that we beat Minnesota was, worthwhile. Like, it's not something that I thought Minnesota would be a better team. But it's still early in the season. This is still the preseason part of the season. So we have to be able to go in there and do what we do best. And if we do what we can do, there's not going to be any problem winning this game.
I agree with that. So you're in the bus with all of the fans, ready to get out there and party, have your tailgate. Is there any special food that you guys have out there this week?
We like our caterer likes to make some mussels. So we want to flex our muscles when we go in there. So that's we get some mussels in there. They do a great tailgate here. We have filet mignon sandwiches, burgers, dogs, all that other fun stuff. And we're going to fry up some pork sandwiches because the hogs are going down today.
You know what I can never understand, Max? Washington is located close to Philadelphia. So why do the Eagles seem to have a bigger rivalry with the Cowboys than they do with the Washington Commanders?
Because Washington hasn't been relevant since like the early 90s. It used to be that the Eagles, Giants, and it was the Cowboys and the Redskins. They were like natural rivalries. Now it's the Washington hasn't been around. Now it's the Commanders. The Commanders and the Cowboys. That sounds funny. The Eagles and the Giants still have a rivalry, but the Cowboys. We've been the best in the division for a long time, especially since like '95. When the Cowboys were winning the Super Bowls, the Eagles were fighting against them. We would split with them all the time. So Washington just hasn't been relevant in such time, and I think that's why there's not more of a rivalry.
Is Washington, how was it rated as being an intimidating place to play?
How is Washington an intimidating place to play?
Washington considered semi-intimidating. I'm sure you go into Dallas. There's a degree of intimidation there with the crowd at Dallas.
Washington fan base is a little on the soft side. So we go in there. That's why we're able to go in there 15,000, 20,000 strong. We're 1,000 people just in our group alone. That's a lot of people. And we have a great time. Like I said, we take over that stadium. At the end, by the middle of the third quarter, it's all going to be Eagles fans because all the Commanders fans are going to leave.
Well,
They're afraid of us Eagles fans.
I imagine, Pogs, you'll be watching the other games played there. A big one, the Giants in Dallas. So, I mean, if you're going to, I know you're not a Dallas fan, you're not a Giants fan, really, but if you had to pick a team, who do you think is the Redskins?
In that game specifically, I think touchdowns are going to be at a premium. I don't think that there's going to be many touchdowns in that game at all. I actually have the Giants winning that game without scoring a touchdown. I think it's going to be 5 field goals. So 15-13 is what I got to score. 5 field goals. The only touchdown in that game is a pick six from Daniel Jones.
Wow.
So you're saying that Mac, in other words, is looking very good after he left Mac for his preseason prediction.
You're the one that left it, Mac. You're the one. Don't look at me. Hey, listen. It's a Jets fan. It's a Jets fan who's all upset about the fact that the Giants are playing. Hey, if it wasn't for the fact that Trump didn't kneel down at the right time, you guys would be 0-2, and you would be all over Mac because you'd be like, oh, the Giants are so great, the Jets good.
They got a better record than last year's Super Bowl champions, who are playing today. Max, when you go on a trip like this, what is the agenda normally? How long are they giving me? If someone misses the bus, You're leaving behind with your weight segment. You do what Jimmy Johnson did to Michael Irvin, who we saw him walking towards the flame and pulled the flame to kick off, leaving here.
It was a 6:30 call this morning for everybody. I had to be there at 5:45. So we give you till 7 o'clock. If you ain't here by 7, bye. Sorry, you gotta make the bus. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So,
Me and Jack got to get on that bus with you. He'll wear his jet shirt. I'll wear my Giants, jacket and shirt.
yeah, I'm sure that would go over really well. There's somebody who's wearing like a Washington. He's like he went to like Maryland or something like that. He's wearing like a Washington something else T-shirt, not even a Commanders T-shirt, and he's already almost been thrown off the bus.
Right, so you're saying if I can't on the jet bus, the Eagle bus, I'm playing the jet. Okay? And I experience it. I go to Philly and I work and how would I be accepted on the Eagle bus?
You would be okay because Jets fans are like dinosaurs. They're extinct. So the fact that you're like there's only one of you left, you would be fine because they'd be like you'd be like an endangered species.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had somebody else screaming in my ear.
Max, I hope alcohol is banned from that bus.
What are you talking about? Hold on. I'm not going to do a commercial, but there's lots of alcohol on this bus. We've only done a couple of shots. Every time we do a shot, we do an Eagles chant.
What about food?
When we get there, we get enough breakfast for which is early.
Right. So, Jack,
She came all the way from She's just south of like San Francisco. So, and Eagles fans over there. And I got Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri is a big Eagles fan. So, this is Guy Fieri. Oh, come on. Go back.
there you go.
I got to get away from some of the crowd.
All right, Guy. Hey, nice seeing you, Guy. My wife's a huge fan.
There we go. He gets a little excited when he's with the Eagles fans. He likes to think that he's a Raiders fan sometimes, but not here.
So Pat, let's be real. I mean, the Giants and Eagles look like they're on a collision course here, and that's what's going to decide the NFC East, right? So, how confident are you that the Eagles will beat the Giants?
That the Eagles will beat the Giants?
For the division title, he means.
We don't play each other for so long. The Giants still have a quarterback problem. When they start scoring 20, like more than 20 points a game, then I'll start to consider them a formidable foe. Until that time, they're not lucky.
No, Mac is high on the Eagles in the sense he feels that they're going to get into the wild card and get eliminated. At least they'll make the playoffs, so the Giants are going to go straight to the Super Bowl.
Well, it's good to have hopes and dreams.
Yes. So listen,
Okay.
you know I respect the Eagles. They're a lunchbox team. They're always in it. They're a really physical team. So I am wishing you And wishing you luck this year, Pags. We'll talk when you play the game.
Well, I appreciate it. Hey, listen, just because I want to make sure I wanted to make my pick. Since I'm still in the survivor pool, I know that nobody else cares because everybody else is out just about. But I got the Chargers today. The Chargers are going up against Jacksonville. They got 10 days off. You know, since they lost to the Chiefs, I think they're going to try to come back. I think Herbert's going to play. And we're going to have Max protect on him. My expectation is that they win this game pretty handily, and they beat Jacksonville pretty well.
That's a great pick.
They'll beat Jacksonville easy. Okay, Pat. I mean, I guess you'd rather be back, you know, with your intoxicated friends rather than hang out with sober Mac and myself. So we're gonna let you go.
What happened to Jim today?
Let me tell you something on that bus. Everyone is celebrating now. I'd love to see everyone after the game. If Carson Wentz puts a whipping on your egos, that's not going to be such a lively bus. They're going to be sitting quiet. They're going to be like kids in detention, everyone on that bus, if Carson Wentz gets it done.
I tell you what, either way, I make a video about it. So you have to get on TikTok, Jack. I know that you're not really savvy with technology. Excuse me. When you get on TikTok, you'll see me make a video one way or another. And you know, there's no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell that Carson Wentz is going to do that to us today.
I agree. Pags, thanks again. Have a great time, and go handle business.
I appreciate it. And as always, go Birds! Yeah! Have a great weekend, guys.
Take care, Pags.
Mac, who was that? Who was that guy? I mean,
I don't
you know,
know.
I don't want to say. I
I've
kind
never
of
seen him.
obscene stuff here. I mean,
I've-
but listen, I know you're getting psyched for the game, but come on.
I've never seen
Okay,
him in my
listen.
life. Yeah, I've never seen him before, Jack.
Okay, well, speaking of that, Mac, they're numbered games today. We should really be getting to them. The whole NFL. You know, the week, it's a little different now, the NFL schedule, because technically the new week for the NFL always kicks off on the Thursday, and they're going to be Thursday night games all throughout the regular season.
Right.
But of course, we come on Thursday mornings. We can give a pick for that one game Thursday, but we like to reserve our predictions for the Sunday games on Sunday morning. Then
Right.
late in the season, there are going to be a couple of Saturday games. Okay, so Mac, are you ready to give your predictions for these games today? I'm going to throw them right at you.
Sure.
And you give me an idea where you think you're going with them. Houston at Chicago.
Right. I think Chicago wins this, Jack. I think the rookie's going to come out of his shell. He's going to run. He's going to throw the ball. I like their defense a lot better than Houston's. So
Well,
I'm
Justin
going.
Fields, technically, you think of him as a rookie, but he's in his
Right.
second year,
Right.
technically.
Right. So I like them big this week, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bears are going to edge it out. I think it's a very, close game. I mean, Davis Mills is the Texan quarterback. No one even talks about him. The Texans are the least intriguing team in football. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Davis Mills, whether he's their quarterback of the future, whether they should get another quarterback. It's like no one cares about the Texans.
Yeah.
It's like it seems like the Texans want it that way. They just want everyone to forget the Deshaun Watson saga, whether they have any responsibility, involved in that. But I think at home, the bad defense and the struggle maybe wins this one 16-14. And I think the big thing is, like you were mentioning, Justin Fields, the quarterback, the second-year quarterback, his development with the Texans, how that's going to play out. Game we talked about a little bit before. We didn't have a prediction. The Las Vegas Raiders against the Tennessee Titans. Both of them had 0-2.
Right.
But the Titans were terrible last week in losing to Buffalo. And maybe that in part that was because Buffalo's considered a powerhouse this year, Super Bowl favorite. But there's a lot of turmoil in Tennessee. And as far as the Raiders go, a lot of disappointment with this 0-2 start, especially them blowing the game to Arizona last week. So who are you picking, Raiders at Tennessee?
Believe it or not, I'm going with Tennessee, Jack. I think that Henry has a big game. He scores a lot of touchdowns, runs for a lot of yardage, and I think that Carr, even though he's a good quarterback, he will play well, but not well enough to beat the Titans.
You like does home cooking mean a lot in the NFL because they're on Tennessee?
I don't think anymore, Jack. I think it used to because of the fields and stuff, but right now I think it's pretty even if you look at the stats.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders in that game. I mean, I have Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill. That's an interesting comparison. If you ask people who they rate ahead of who, I mean, Ryan Tannehill is slightly long in the tooth. The perception at least is Derek Carr has a little more upside. We've been waiting for Derek Carr to maybe take the next step and show he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. But I think reality has to set in. Derek Carr's basically a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. I mean, when you look at all the starters, he's maybe the 16th, 17th best starter in the NFL. So I'm gonna go, but I'm still gonna go with the Raiders 24-19 in that game.
Okay, Jack.
Next game, okay? We're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs against the Indianapolis Colts. How do you see that game?
I think Kansas City wins that big time. I love Mahomes. I love their defense. The whole team. I think that the Chiefs win this game and win it handily, Jack.
Kansas City should. I I think they roll over the Colts. I think the Colts are a mess. Big disappointment. Their offensive line has been, I think fairly good for Matt Ryan. That's the ironic thing. They signed Quentin Nelson to this record extension, their offensive lineman. And I think there's going to be turmoil there in Indianapolis. And I think Frank Reich is very much going to be on the hot seat with a loss here to Kansas City. But I'll tell you about the NFL. I can't see we're making coaching changes during the season having much of a positive effect for a team. It's not like another sport. It's not like basketball, for example, or baseball, where you could change the culture. Or even we had Pax, the Philly guy. The Phillies moved on from Joe Girardi. Right. And actually it worked. I mean, Girardi was a great manager, with the Yankees and the Marlins before, but it wasn't working out in Philadelphia. But I think you have to stick with your coach basically till the end of the year, unless he's lost control of the team. And Kansas City also, they haven't missed Tyreek Hill as much as people have thought. When he went to the Dolphins, they thought that Patrick Mahomes isn't going to have his favorite target, in all due respect to Kelsey, his tight end. But he's spreading the ball evenly all over the place. It's been working out there. They got Juju Schuster, an elite receiver. So Kansas City's been fine. And they should beat Indianapolis decisively, by at least a couple of touchdowns more than that, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree, Jack.
So we agree on Kansas City. The game of the day, perhaps, or the week, Buffalo at Miami. Because this is going to give us our answer, perhaps, is Miami for real? Because if Buffalo should run over Miami, the way Byron Williams, when we had him on Friday, Thursday or Friday, I forgot which day, but Byron Williams feels Buffalo's basically, going to have no trouble with Miami, beat them really big. If Buffalo does it, it's wow. It's a statement game for them. They're sending word, we're the powerhouse team, we're the team to beat. okay, in the NFL, and no one is beating us. But if Miami should upset Buffalo, then they're the upstarts. All of a sudden, they're in first place. I'm a big believer, Mac, a big believer that they're not moral victories in football. I know once in a while there is. I hate this moral victory stuff. If Miami should play a tough game against Buffalo today, which I think they will, I like Buffalo something like 33-27, a high-scoring game. And let's say Buffalo wins in overtime. I don't want to hear from Miami, oh, they took a lot out of this game. They showed they could play with Buffalo. No, you have to go out and win this game. You have to stick it to Buffalo to show them they have nothing on you. And for Buffalo, you have to establish beyond any doubt that you're the team to beat, in the AFC, even though Kansas City is going to have a lot to say with that, I'm sure, before it's over. I like Buffalo in that game, but I think it's going to be high scoring and relatively close.
Yeah, this is so even, Jack. I mean, the defenses are good. The running backs are great. Quarterbacks are both at the top of their game. I'm going to give a slight edge to Miami, though. I'm going to take Miami. I think Miami will just eke it out barely, 1 point.
Yeah, Miami's got a pretty good defense. They're going to be up for this game. It's in Miami. And, of course, weather conditions have a lot to do in football. They do factor into games. You just have to look back to week 1 where there were a few inches of rain on the field and the Niners lost to the Chicago Bears, a team they're better than they should have absolutely beaten. And Buffalo is going to warm Miami. I mean, it's not like the winter where the cold weather in Buffalo is set in yet. So it's not like no one is coming from a cold climate during the month of September. But it's hot in Miami. It's humid in Miami. And I'm a big believer, Mac, you laughed at me. There should be no games in Florida, NFL games during the month of September.
Yeah.
Because it's hot, it's humid. Let those Florida teams, the Dolphins, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, let them play on the road the first month of the season. Okay?
I mean,
same way with Green Bay. I don't want home games in Green Bay in December. Okay?
Listen, Jack, sometimes that's the only advantage these teams have is the weather conditions. And I believe that football is football, and you play football, in all kinds of weather. So we'll differ from that. But, I still think, as my pick, I'm going to take Miami.
You like Miami. I like Buffalo there. In interest, it's a statement game. The Detroit Lions against the Minnesota Vikings at Minnesota, Detroit at Minnesota. Interesting game because last year in Detroit, the Lions upset the Vikings on one of their 3 victories on the season. The last play of the game. Okay, the last one 3 or 4, I forgot which number. But the Lions have improved this year. We thought the Vikings, who lost a lot of close games last year, would maybe win some of those close games, resulting in obviously a better record, putting them in position to perhaps go to the playoffs. But their last game, I mean, this past week against the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe that put things in perspective. The Eagles seem to dominate the Vikings. Kirk Cousins was very erratic. Look at his numbers minus the interceptions, and they didn't look too bad. But the point is, he did throw like 3 interceptions, a couple in a row, and his receivers, he didn't take any advantage, of Dalvin Cook. Only had 6 carries there. Justin Jefferson, his really good wideout, he only threw a few short passes too. I mean, it just didn't work out. But with that said, I'd like the Vikings to eke out a win at home against the Lions, maybe 24-23.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jack. I think, Goff has become a game changer. True. But I like the Vikings wide receivers, the ones you mentioned. I think that they're the difference in this game.
Justin Jefferson, yeah. Good one. I don't know about Goff being. I won't go. I think Goff for the Lion quarterback, he's doing well so far. Okay, maybe he's taking his game up a little level. Keep in mind, this is a quarterback who did help lead a team to the Super Bowl when the Rams lost to the Patriots a few years back. So Goff is one of these quarterbacks. You look at him and you say, well, he's competent. You know, he's maybe barely good enough to be a full-time starter on a team.
Right.
But I don't think Goff has entered the territory of difference maker, even that close to being a difference maker. But he has seemed to gotten a little more comfortable as the Lion QB. Dan Campbell questioned him last year, how good he really was, and Goff has seemed to improve somewhat. So right now he's the Lion franchise quarterback, and I can't say that they're like looking to move on from him.
Right.
But what's interesting, last year in the draft, the Lions had the second overall pick, and they took Aiden Hutchinson. You kind of wonder if one of the top college quarterbacks was available who had a lot of upside, not like last year's group that didn't have a lot of upside. Would the Lions have drafted a quarterback? But they weren't in that position because none of the college quarterbacks are considered great prospects. Okay, we talked a little with Keith Engel about the Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots. How do you see that one?
I think Baltimore wins that. I think their defense is pretty stout. Patriots have a good defense too, so it's going to be close. The difference here is Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones is what everybody thinks. He's going up against Jackson, who is just a tremendous quarterback. He's the MVP. And Jack, I think the Ravens got a really good shot at winning the Super Bowl this year. I really do.
Well, if you consider last week's collapse against the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins get 4 touchdowns in at the end of the game, fourth quarter, and miraculously pull that game out. Yeah. I mean, I understand how you feel about the Ravens. You said that last week, but that's not what Super Bowl winning teams are made of. It doesn't mean that the Ravens can't rebound from that. And their defense that you think is that good, are they really that good? They've traditionally always had a good defense, but I think you have to kind of question their defense a little bit this year. But with that said, I do think the Ravens do bounce back and they edge the Patriots out. There might be a few more points than people think, maybe 24-20. I think the Patriot offense is a work in progress. It shouldn't be. I mean, it just shouldn't be. You have a second-year quarterback. You have all these schemes, and you're teaching them new things all the time. And with Matt Patricia there running things, the offense, how successful was he when he was head coach of the Lions running the offense? That's what I want to ask.
Right.
So what's going to make him so successful at New England? New England basically is winning on defense when they win their games. Sure. Running the ball, winning on defense, their traditional way. And they have to protect Mac Jones as well. Okay? Their protection for Mac Jones was a bit shaky, especially, week 1 of the season when he got sacked, fumbled, and it was returned for a touchdown. But I kind of like Baltimore to edge it out. And as far as Lamar Jackson went former MVP, you kind of wonder his contract status. The Ravens don't want to guarantee him all the money. That's what's holding up the deal. But when you look around the league at all the other quarterbacks, they might be put in a position where they just have to come to the table, the Ravens, at some point, because it's hard to get a franchise quarterback. And we'll see what type of year Lamar Jackson has. But if he stays healthy, I would think it would be a good one. So we both like the Ravens in that game. This is the big one. The Cincinnati Bengals of my New York Jets.
Ooh. I have to give Burrows the edge over Jones, right? I think he's got a lot more experience. And
Over
he's a lot more-
Flacco. Over
Right,
Flacco.
over Flacco, right. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals, but it's with hesitation, Jack. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets upset the Bengals, but I'm gonna stick with the Bengals.
One of the things I have to do, I have to be objective on this show. I have to be objective. I could root for the Jets, but I have to be objective. I'm not a homer like Byron Williams is with the Giants. I'm not a homer like Jim Jeffcoat is with the Cowboys to pick them no matter what. I'm not like that. Okay, I have to be honest about it. It's desperation time for the Bengals. They're 0-2, Mac. I repeat, the Bengals are 0-2. They have the Super Bowl hangover from last year. And I kind of wonder, had they won the Super Bowl, would they have been better so far this year? When you lose the Super Bowl that closely, does it take something a little more out of you? And I just don't know the answer to that exactly. But I got to believe it's desperation time for the Bengals. Their whole season's on the line. I have to believe that they get it done. They're going to go, and they find a way to beat the Jets today. I'm not high on Joe Flacco. And let's be honest about it. As much as I hate to admit what Pack said, if Nick Chubb just didn't run the ball in for a touchdown, just went down, the game was over.
Yeah.
The Jets had no timeouts left. They don't get the ball back. The game is over, but he ran for a touchdown. And the Jets' chances of still coming back were nil. They were nil. But all of a sudden, they throw for a long touchdown pass. How the Cleveland secondary could have let Corey Davis get behind them was ludicrous. Because they knew Flacco had to go long. They get a touchdown. Then the Jets recover an onside kick. And the chances in the NFL of recovering an onside kick are maybe around 10% or so. And then Flacco hits, Garrett Wilson for a touchdown, and the Jets wind up winning. But I have to like Cincinnati, something like 27-20. But if the Jets should win, which I very much hope that they do, and if the offense is functioning well, you kind of what's going on with Zach Wilson, their rookie, okay? Right. Number 2 overall pick, the quarterback. Robert Saleh likes Joe Flacco. He just likes him, point blank. And you wonder whether they're going to tell Zach Wilson, take your time coming back, baby him, not put him back so quick. I kind of wonder if the Jets have a chance, they think of going to the playoffs. Let's see how that scenario unfolds. But with that said, I think the Bengals do win today. It doesn't make me a disloyal Jet fan. We do this show. We have to be objective. I like the Bengals, something like 27-20. Okay, next game we talked about. Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like that one, Mac? Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders.
I'm going with Philadelphia. I think that they're just a better team. I like the coach. I like his philosophy. I love the aggressiveness and the
Sirianni.
And the aggressiveness of the Eagles. I mean, their defenses are equal, but the aggressiveness, I go with the Eagles. So I think they'll win, but barely. I think they'll win something like, 16-13.
Yeah, what's happened to this Washington team? I kind of wondered. The year before last, they won their division, not with a great record, 7-9, but what they had was a really good defense. Okay, and then last year having a poor year, and then this year their touted defense isn't what we thought it would be. This game is a nice storyline game because Carson Wentz is playing his old team. It would have been more dramatic had he been going to Philadelphia, but he's home and he's going to go to Philadelphia later this year because it's a divisional game, meaning that they play twice. But the Eagles have something that I mentioned to Pags they haven't had for a while. they have a swag about them now. This is the first time in a long time they're the team to beat in the NFC East. They're serious Super Bowl contender. The other teams are looking up at them. And I got to feel that the Eagle defense is pretty good. They're overshadowed by Brown, Devontae Smith, the wideouts, how Jalen Hurts is doing, the running game there. But they've got a pretty good defense. But I like the Eagles in a relatively high-scoring game, 30-20. I think Carson Wentz will play decently, but when all is said and done, I like the Eagles in that game and to go to 3-0 and maybe have a snowball effect around the NFC where the other teams in the other divisions going to take a look and say, this Eagle team's someone we're going to have to contend with down the line.
Sure.
Okay. The New Orleans Saints against the Carolina Panthers.
I like the Saints, Jack. I think that Winston will play a little bit better. He'll throw his interceptions, but I think he'll throw a couple more touchdowns and interceptions. I love Kamara. I love the Saints defense. I love the defense of Carolina too. I think they got more experience on the defense. They're very aggressive. So I'll take the Saints in this game, Jack.
Yeah, you sometimes wonder about a team like Carolina's 0-2. If they go to 0-3, people are going to already think this season's over for them. But why? How come it never works in reverse? Last year, they won their first 3 games, and then the season fell apart. But it's a rarity in football for it to be the opposite, a team to lose 3 in a row and then go on this tremendous run. Even though your Giants in their last, one of their Super Bowl years in modern times, they were 0-2 and then went on a run to, win the Super Bowl. But I'm going to go with Carolina to win this game at home. Baker Mayfield has been quite average. I don't think he's an elite NFL quarterback. Is he good enough to be a starter for a team going forward? I'm kind of iffy on it. I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield fan. He's had 4 years in the league before this one, 2 good seasons, 2 subpar seasons. So when he's at his very best, he's good. Same with Jameis Winston. When he's at his very best, he's very good, but he's a pick-6 machine. I also think the Saints are basically overrated. I think their window is closed. Their time has passed. And I saw it take place over the last few seasons. And that, to me, they should be in a rebuild mode. I have to like the Panthers at home after 2 tough losses to start the season, to win with some room to spare, something like 31-17. But it's going to be ugly in Carolina if the Panthers lose. The Matt Rule situation starts becoming ugly in Carolina because reportedly they have an impatient owner, but does he fire Matt Rule? But once again, what are you going to do? Have an interim coach and be successful? But with that said, look what happened last year with the Raiders when they had the John Gruden controversy. They had to Mark Davis, the Raider owner, fired John Gruden during the season. They went to Rick Bisaccia. And guess what? The Raiders played much better, made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you never know, how it could work out. But with that said, Matt Rule, very good college coach from Baylor. I don't want to see him lose his job. Sometimes, Mac, just stick with a coach long term. Stick with him through the bad in certain cases, and you'll be rewarded for it. Okay.
Yeah.
And other times it's best to move on from a coach. But
if they fired Landry with the Cowboys, that would have been crazy. They had to wait.
Parcells after his first year, 3-12-1 or something. Yeah. Okay. Jacksonville Jaguars at LA Chargers. To me, this isn't a hard game, but maybe you'll shock me, Matt, with your pick.
I don't think so. I like the Chargers big time too, Jack. Can't deny Herbert. Their defense is strong. So I think the Chargers win this handling, something like 31-10.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are just point blank bet. I'll be shocked if they lose at home to Jacksonville. But I will say this: if Jacksonville can go into LA, not that LA is the hardest place to play because the fans are a bit indifferent there, but if they could beat the Chargers, who are considered by a lot of people one of the better teams in the AFC, despite being 1-1 right now, that would tell us the Jaguars have grown up, that the Jaguars have arrived under their new coach there, Doug Peterson, and it would also signify that Terrence Lawrence probably have to have a big game to do such a thing.
Yeah.
But LA's just too good. The Charger defense is too good. They're going to harry Trevor Lawrence. I want to see whether Jacksonville can give Trevor Lawrence enough protection, give him a chance to do something. But with that said, the Chargers are just much better at this point. I'm not going to be high on Jacksonville until they show me something. Don't beat an average team once in a while. Beat a genuinely top-of-the-line team, and it'll show me it's starting to grow up. But I like the Chargers, something like 34-14.
Right, I agree.
Okay, the LA Rams against the Arizona Cardinals. Intriguing game. Super Bowl champions going to Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cardinals, Jack. I think the Cardinals, Kyle Murray has grown up. I think he's got the arm. The defense is playing well. The receivers are out of sight. I mean, they're fast. They got great hands. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. And again, very high scoring, but very close game, Jack.
Mac, you should be wearing like a tag. What have you done for me lately? Because that's what you judge on. Kyler Murray has grown up. Okay, he waged a tremendous comeback against the Raiders last week. But before doing that, there were questions about him. He finished last year terribly. And then in the playoffs, he was atrocious. When they were starting to grab him in the end zone, he just flipped the ball underhanded anywhere. And it got intercepted and returned for TD. And then he had a poor game one this week, last week, and he was playing poorly. And then all of a sudden, he rallied. He got it together. Kudos to Kyler Murray for that great comeback last week. But it doesn't mean he's grown up. He's played the Rams. I wonder, are we taking the Rams a little too lightly? After all, they are the defending Super Bowl champions. And the years before that, they were contending for the Super Bowl championship and even had gotten into another Super Bowl where they lost to the Patriots. But because the Rams performed so poorly opening game against the Bills, they didn't look good against the Falcons last week. Are we tending to maybe write them off? I don't know. Maybe the Rams are one of these teams that are going to peak as the season goes along. Again, I don't know. I look for a low-scoring, uneventful game. The Rams' defense is still elite. To beat Arizona, something like 18-13. Low-scoring game. But if Kyler Murray truly has put it all together, then he's going to show himself to be a difference maker in this game if he's really got it all together. But he's got to show me. I don't want to hear about Kyler Murray's potential. Kyler Murray did play well early last year, most of last year, but something went awry. So we'll see how it turns out. This is certainly a good test. It's in Arizona, but I like the Rams to win a low-scoring, uneventful game there.
Okay.
One of the big games of the day, the Atlanta Falcons against the Seattle Seahawks. Atlanta at Seattle.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks, Jack. I like their wide receiver core. The Falcons, I think, are still trying to get it together. Again, a very low-scoring tight game, but I'll take Seattle over the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, this is a game of two teams that are going nowhere. I know Seattle beat Denver week 1, and you look at their record 1-1, but they're going nowhere at all. They lost their safety, Jamal Adams, who anchored their defense. He got injured. He's out for the year. Football can be such an unforgiving game, Mac. You could work out so hard in the offseason, the preseason. You could be so psyched for the regular season, and you're ready to have the season of your life. Game 1, you're injured. You're out for the year. You know what that means? You're not playing football until next season. And you've got to do all this rehab to just get back to where you were before. You know how depressing that is, Mac, to do all that rehab? It's awful. But with that said, Atlanta going into Seattle, I think Atlanta upset Seattle there. You know, it would be a mild upset because the Seahawks would be favored by, just a couple. They're favored by a couple of points. What's interesting is the quarterback position for both teams. For the life of me, I can't see Geno Smith being the Seahawks quarterback next year. I mean, I shouldn't say, maybe I shouldn't make it that strongly. It's always a possibility, but we know what Geno Smith is. Once he was a starter for the Jets, and then he's basically been a career backup. Marcus Mariota started for Tennessee, went to the Raiders, and now he's with Atlanta. I don't see him being the starter. The Desmond Ridder, the Cincinnati quarterback who they drafted out of college, they drafted him in the 5th round. When you draft someone, it takes you that long to draft a quarterback. You can't count on him being a quarterback of the future. But I think the Falcons have maybe a couple of more weapons. I look for Elijah Pitts, their tight end, to be a factor. Him and Mariota work great together. So I like the Falcons to win something like a 20-19 game in Seattle. Tiny upset, but I think that's what's going to happen. Okay, Green Bay at Tampa Bay, Battle of the Legends. Aaron Rodgers visiting Tom Brady. Your two favorite quarterbacks, Mac.
I'm going to go Green Bay, Jack. I mean, Green Bay is at home. Their running game has improved a lot. Their defense is good. But man, it's gonna be a tight game. But I'm gonna take Green Bay barely edging out Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm saying it's. I'm just looking over here. Both of them are making have to make personnel moves. The Buccaneers just signed, the veteran wide receiver Cole Beasley, who was with Buffalo a number of years. He's kicked around the NFL. I think it's a little bit desperation time for both teams. They're actually lacking a little in the wide receiver position. Mike Evans was suspended for 1 game. Buccaneer, great wide receiver because of his altercation during the Saint game. You wonder what's going on at Green Bay. I picked Green Bay to go to the Super Bowl before the year started. I'm sticking with that, actually. I have to believe Aaron Rodgers does get it together with his receivers as the year goes along. It's
right.
Just a question of hanging in there till then. Tom Brady breaking 2 tablets on the sidelines, Mac, just slamming them down. He's unhappy with the way the offense is going, but that's a good sign when your offense is struggling, yet you're 2-0 on the season.
Sure.
That shows you have upside, With that said, I like, the Packers to edge out the Bucs at the wire, something like 20-17. One of those games where I think the Packers will get better as the year goes along. I'm not that sure about the Buccaneers, what their long range, prognosis is, in the standings, how they're going to do. San Francisco 49ers at the Denver Broncos on the Sunday night game. Would you like that?
San Fran should win that pretty handily. You've got a great defense in San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo will do what he has to do. So I'll take the San Francisco, and I think it's going to be pretty big, Jack. So San Francisco, wins big.
Yeah, it's funny about what Robert Butler said about the Denver Bronco fans. They were booing Russell Wilson last week. Don't boo Russell Wilson. He has a multi-year contract. He's not going anywhere. Denver cannot cut Russell Wilson. They're committed to Russell Wilson the next few seasons as their quarterback. Committed to him. They cannot move on from Russell Wilson. He's getting paid too much. It's too big a hit on the cap. This is a full commitment. So support Russell Wilson, Denver fans, but they're not doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already discontented. It's just like I said, Mac. If Denver somehow lost to Seattle the first game of the season, it would deflate their fan base, and I was right. It deflated it. And they're 1-1, and they won last week against Houston, even though they struggled offensively. I'm on the same page with you. I like the Niners to go into Denver and win something like 23-14. Jimmy G isn't lights out. He's not lights out. He's a excellent game manager. That's what Jimmy G is, an excellent game manager. I don't think he's quite a difference maker, but he could step up at times and be one now and then.
Yeah.
So I think the 49ers have some of the best personnel in the league. Maybe if you look at their roster from top to bottom, it could match anyone's. So I like the Niners to go into Denver to win. And it might be getting pretty ugly in Denver if the offense isn't functioning tonight. The discontent's just going to grow. Okay. Game of the week for you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Cowboys against the New York Giants.
Monday night. I like the Giants, as you know. I am a homer, and I'll admit it. Dallas has a great team this year. Giants, I think, can match them. I think their defense is a little bit better than Dallas. I like Daniel Jones throwing the ball deep. CeeDee Lamb still continues to drop passes. Zeke Elliott is not as good as he used to be. So I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take the Giants in a real tight one, maybe 19-16, Jack.
You know, we're kind of thinking of along the same lines, Mac. I like the Giants, a low-scoring game, something like 17-14. I can't believe I'm picking the Giants to actually beat the Cowboys. Dak Prescott is a difference maker for the Cowboys. I know he struggled against Tampa Bay week 1, the game. He got injured. He didn't play well in that particular game. But to have Rush take his place, Cooper Rush's quarterback, it hurts Dallas a little bit. And I think the Giants actually have the biggest weapon in this game in Saquon Barkley. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott's a weapon anymore. Yeah. Maybe he has something left. Maybe he could be an effective running back. I'm not saying he can't. You match him with Pollard. You still have a good running game. But he's not the weapon that Saquon Barkley is. There's a storyline with the Giant receivers, Kenny Galloway, who they signed to that, deal where they paid him a good amount of money. He's upset that he's not getting the ball thrown to him. Well, he was injured last year and didn't really perform well last year. Now he's a little down on the depth chart. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they get him involved or not. But it should be, a very close, evenly matched game. And there are a lot of implications. The winner of the game goes to 2-1. They're going to be there within range of the division title, at least, to contend. Yeah. The loser goes to 1-2. And if the Eagles win, they're 3-0. The loser the Giants would be 2-1. I'm sorry. Correct me. So the Giants are there no matter what. So it's bigger for the Cowboys, I think, because if they go to 1-2 and the Eagles are 3-0, that's a place that they feared being in. Yeah. Well, Mac, it's been a lot of fun here, and the game tonight, I know the 49ers, Denver, you're going to tune in, but you're most anxious for the Giant game, the Monday night game. that you're really like psyched for, and it's there's nothing like the NFL when you have game day.
Yeah.
To be like psyched for those games. I mean, nothing really quite compares to it. But I think we're coming to an end of this show, and I'm a little scared. We've been on the same page a lot, Mac, today.
I know that's crazy. I never thought that happened, Jack.
That doesn't make for that entertaining a show. I couldn't find anything to argue with you about.
I know.
I gotta-
Even the viewers weren't disagreeing with us, which is scary.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Max. So I'll see you this Thursday on the Mac and Jack show. Also, for the listeners who listen to Gloved Fist, we're going to be doing the show Tuesday instead of Monday at 7 o'clock, only for 1 week. Doc Semendinger has the Monday show.
Jack, that will be October
October 4th.
4th. October 4th.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, that's October. So we do Glove Fist Monday.
Right.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
Good
You're
thing the memo. Okay. I misread the memo. So we'll make that announcement, another time. Okay.
Sounds great, Jack. You have a great day.
Good enough.
Everybody
Glove Fist on tomorrow at 7.
enjoy
Okay.
your
All the
game,
best, everyone.
and hopefully your team wins.